This Israel report is brought to you by the Blue Agency. Your Israel property is in good hands. Owning properties in Israel can be a great investment, but challenging to manage if you are based abroad. The Blue Agency will manage every aspect of your property, finding and vetting tenants, maintaining your property and getting it rental ready, negotiating contracts and collecting rentals, reporting back to you regularly. The Blue Agency has built a reputation for trust and confidentiality over 20 years. The Blue Agency, your Israel property is in good hands. Contact us at www.theblueagency.com.
The Israel Report for the latest news and insights with Anthony Reich.
Well, no, it's not indeed with Anthony Reich, that's who it is not with. It is with Lieutenant Colonel Maurice Hirsch from the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. He's also former director of military prosecutions for Judea and Samaria. Apologies. If you thought you were having a senior moment there, Maurice, don't worry. It's us in studio, not you.
It's okay, Howard. I'm happy to be the underscore for this.
Right, exactly. And you know what? I have no doubt you've been called worse in your lifetime.
I have certainly been called worse in my lifetime. I was the head of the prosecution for Judea and Samaria. You're prosecuting terrorists. That is not a popular position, and it tends to evoke all types of interesting emotions.
You know, I actually would love to hear. We have to have a discussion when it's not the Israel Report per se about your time as a prosecutor there, because obviously there's certain things you can and can't talk about, but just the whole environment, the repercussions, the impact that it had must have been absolutely fascinating.
Without question, it was a very interesting period of time. I spent a lot of time in the prosecution in different positions, from a starting prosecutor all the way through to the head of the prosecution, each one being a very unique and interesting experience. These days, really, as we're going along, in 2005, it was really the prosecution and the courts that were the last Israeli presence in the Gaza Strip. Leading up to the disengagement, because all of the civilians had been taken out, but we were still prosecuting the last remaining terrorists. So it really was a very interesting period of time.
So let's talk about what is happening in Gaza, because the Board of Peace has reached an agreement on complete disarmament of Hamas. Maybe I'm just skeptical. Tell me what's going on here.
So I think that there's probably a little bit of a disparity between the announcement of the Board of Peace and the reality on the ground. The announcement tends to suggest that there will be an almost immediate disarmament of Hamas. That's not really the case. Right. When you get into the details, you see that it's a long and dragged out process, which will probably never come to its end if it ever starts. Hamas will maintain certain weapons over a certain period of time. I think really the goal there as well is to try and defang this Satan as much as possible by non-violent means, in the understanding that there are international forces that will go into the Gaza Strip. They, I don't think, actually want to confront Hamas. Certainly not at the initial stages. So I think there is, and Hamas doesn't want to confront them either necessarily, because that would bring around more of a conflict. So I think all the sides are looking to find a way to really pull the wool over everyone's eyes and pretend that Hamas is changing its ways. We all know, unfortunately, the reality is very, very different. In the meantime, Hamas in the Gaza Strip has maintained its dominance, maintained its control of the humanitarian aid, and has managed to recruit more and more people. So I think there is still a lot of work to be done, and all that even before we start talking about the most important thing to be done in Gaza, which is the denazification. Never mind Hamas. It's changing the mind thoughts of the Gazans just to persuade them that a very, very simple idea. It's not okay to murder Jews.
It's crazy if you just thinking about it, the problem of radicalization. With all of that, with Hamas still maintaining a grip over as you said, the civilian population or the humanitarian aid, the reality is it must be a lot harder for them today to weaponize. Iran is very busy with all sorts of other things. Gaza is a different place. The regular routes for the inflow of arms have got to be mainly curtailed or stopped. Are they still? What do we know about what is happening in terms of their capabilities?
So obviously, Howard, you're absolutely right. The extent of the Hamas rearmament is much less than it ever was before. They don't have the tunnels coming in from Egypt. They don't have that ability to really smuggling in even the heavy engineering equipment that they needed to cut all of the tunnels. That has all been cut off, but they still have the localized industry, which they used intensively to manufacture the Qassam rockets and really those very, very simple but threatening rockets and light arms, which they've always had that capability. And some of that has continued on. If you remember, we saw a very strategic strike of the IDF just about 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, targeting a weapons manufacturing installation in the Gaza Strip. So they are trying their best to rearm and to recuperate, and as much as possible, we're trying to prevent that from happening. But that certainly isn't an easy task.
So this board of peace, do we have any hope that this is going to have a positive impact, or is it, as you've said, just really pulling the wool over our own eyes?
So the Board of Peace really is the umbrella organization for two separate organizations that are then working, or three separate organizations that are meant to deal with Gaza. There's the executive committee, headed by Mladenov. Then there's the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, Ali Shah and his cohort. And then there's this international stabilization. All of those are going to work in coordination and in cooperation in order to get to, first and foremost, the disarmament, disbanding of Hamas, and then the rebuilding of the Gaza Strip in some way. It's not even clear exactly what that will look like. Unfortunately, what we're already seeing is the seeds of what I can only define as Israeli stupidity. The return to Israel being the provider of water and electricity to the Gaza Strip, that was always a bad idea. It still is a bad idea. We disengaged from the Gaza Strip, and it should have been complete. We see the continued discussions, even in Israel's Supreme Court, of Israel being forced to provide medical care for the terrorists. All these ridiculous things, and we would hope that the three international organizations under the direction of the Board of Peace will be able to actually get to the situation where Gaza is denazified, disarmed, and can be rebuilt and supplied with whatever it needs, but from Egypt, and not from Israel. It's like the blessing the rabbi gives for the Tsar in Fiddler on the Roof. God bless them and God keep them far away from us.
Exactly. Absolutely crazy. Let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Is it open? Is it closed? What is going on? It's Schrodinger's Strait, yeah?
Yeah, it depends on I think on your perspective and the direction you're traveling. For most maritime traffic coming out of the Arab Gulf. The straits are predominantly open. Obviously, there are interruptions, but predominantly open. Going into the Arab Gulf, it depends on who and what you are. There is the blockade that the U.S. forces have reestablished of anything going towards Iranian ports. That's now an integral part of those activities. And so the Straits of Hormuz for the Iranians are blocked. And that's really where we are. The IRGC is trying its utmost, obviously, to extort the world and block the straits, to interfere with the straits. It's enough for them to cause a disruption in order to have the knock-on effect of insurance companies not wanting to insure or placing far too high premiums on insurance for travel through the straits. And that's really all they need to achieve. So that's really the balancing game that's going on at the moment, how to keep the straits mostly open for international traffic, but mostly closed for Iranian traffic. Not an easy task.
No, not at all. And, we have no idea from 1 minute to the next what is going to happen there. I wanted to just briefly touch on this, the terror tunnels that have been destroyed. Which ones are these now?
Well, unfortunately, in Israel, when you say terror tunnels being destroyed, or fortunately, we have so many different associations. We have terror tunnels that were discovered 2 weeks ago coming out of Judea and Samaria into Jerusalem, discovered, destroyed. We have terror tunnels in Lebanon, southern Lebanon, which are constantly being destroyed. And we also have the terror tunnels in the Gaza Strip, which are still being destroyed almost 3 years later. In the area that is under Israeli control, we are still discovering or uncovering and still destroying dozens of kilometers of terror tunnels. They started off with what we estimated to be some 560 to 600 kilometers of tunnels, and it would appear that estimate, which really is a tunnel system larger than the underground in London, just underneath the Gaza Strip, was even bigger than we had anticipated and that we knew about. And we're continuing to destroy these tunnels.
It's just and so it continues. It's
amazing how much money they spent on these tunnels.
That's what I was just thinking.
Rather than just developing Gaza.
Well, not only Gaza, everywhere. Look what it's done to Lebanon. Look what it does to Judea and Samaria. Wherever it is, when money gets it's not only the money; it's the focus. When the focus is finding a way into another territory to destroy to murder people in that territory. Well, how much emphasis are you giving on education and uplifting of the people in your own environment? It's just the sickest approach to life, that you're all about destruction of somebody else, not rebuilding or not building and strengthening yourself. What a sad, tragic waste of humanity.
It's a waste of humanity, but it's indicative, unfortunately, of their mindset. That
Right.
they were willing to spend so much money to murder Jews and to prepare to murder Jews. That it was just incredible to see how much they wasted rather than turning Gaza. And I know everyone laughs at Trump's vision for Gaza being this tremendous seaside resort, but that's what it should be. It's an amazing piece of coastal territory. It could be really a phenomenal place. But instead of building hotels, building industry, they built terror tunnels to murder Jews.
Absolutely, it's honestly absurd. Finally, just going back to the broader Iranian, U.S., Israel war. We know that Iran attacked bases in Jordan this week. Netanyahu's been in Washington. What are we anticipating? What are our options over the next short while in terms of how this can go?
So with Iran, I have my own theory, which I am at the moment sticking to the best of my ability. And it goes like this. At the moment, neither the Iranians nor the US are interested in a full-out conflict. The US is not interested. President Trump is looking towards the midterm elections on the 3rd of November, and he is interested in showing that he is being tough on Iran and not letting them abuse the negotiations in order to achieve their goals. But at the same time, not ordering this all-out strike on Iran that would reignite the war and then again cause that disruption in the global energy market and push prices up. And that's, I believe, what we're going to see for the next few months. This almost tango of backwards and forwards, the level of violence going up and down all the time, with all types of excuses coming up. Suddenly we've discovered that we don't have enough Patriot missiles in order to carry out the big strike that we were talking about. Really, do you actually think that we believe that was a sudden realization in a campaign that's been so meticulously planned all the way through? I think some of the excuses are so opaque that they lend themselves to really an understanding that something else is going on. And that is, I believe, where we are. It can change in a minute, though. If the Iranians, and they've also been careful, A, not to attack Israel, because they don't want Israel back in this fight, and B, they have been cautious despite a few mistakes that they've made, and I really think it was mistakes, not to kill U.S. servicemen. Because that's something which I understand President Trump won't accept, and the American people won't accept. So they too are playing that very, very careful balance. At the moment, their answer is, let's attack Jordan. No one cares about Jordan. Jordan is not an oil-rich country. They have no natural resources. They're entirely dependent, on one hand, on the United States, and no one cares about them on the other side. And so that's why we've seen, I think, the heightened attacks or levels of attacks of the Iranians, specifically in Jordan, because it's almost an easy playing field for both sides to maneuver.
Amazing.
And that is, I believe, what we're going to see for the coming months.
Absolutely fascinating. We do need to leave it there. Lieutenant Colonel Maurice Hirsch from the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs, bringing us the Israel report this morning, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom. It is 8:01. I'm Howard Feldman. This is your Morning Mayhem, 101.9 Chai FM.
That Israel report was brought to you by the Blue Agency. Your Israel property is in good hands. Owning properties in Israel can be a great investment, but challenging to manage if you're based abroad. The Blue Agency will manage every aspect of your property, finding and vetting tenants, maintaining your property and getting it rental ready, negotiating contracts and collecting rentals, reporting back to you regularly. The Blue Agency has built a reputation for trust and confidentiality over 20 years. The Blue Agency, your Israel property is in good hands. Contact us at www.theblueagency.com.